guys, what is up? Welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. We have an episode for you today that I've been so stoked about it ever since we got it scheduled. And I'm telling you, this person is just a hoot to be around talking to. And we just want to let you know, though, if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
And I'm Norman Lee. That's right, Colin. We have a heck of a show tonight. But first, we got to talk about one of our sponsors for tonight's episode. This episode is brought to you by Bucked Up Energy, an all natural supplement that will give you a higher level of energy and better stamina throughout the day without the harsh crash that you get with other brands. Also helping cut muscle recovery time along with boosting your endurance and libido levels. No matter what kind of physical activities you're into or just love spending time in the great outdoors, you need to check out Bucked Up. Go to www.buckedup.com. Don't forget, make sure to use that discount code DECKTALK20.
That's right, guys. Make sure you use that discount code. But, man, tonight, our guest tonight, or today's guest that we have, has 20 classic appearances. In 2003 is the classic winner. 2006 was the Angler of the Year. 1999 was BASS National Champion. And then in 2021, Bassmaster Kayak Series Tournament winner. And has 70 top 10 finishes and has over 9,000 pounds in total weight. And if you didn't know, he's also the only angler in Bassmaster history to have won at every adult tournament level. We have with us Michael Iaconelli. What's up, brother?
Hey fellas, how you
What's
doing
up,
tonight?
Man, we are just living the dream. Just living the dream, brother. So we actually caught y'all when y'all were out camping and having a little time off and a little family time. And so thank you for coming on here, brother.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a little mini vacation. We're so busy throughout the year, so to have a couple days to just get back to reality, and families always should come first. It's a very
That's
important
for
thing.
sure.
So these little trips, even if they're 2 or 3 days, they're very refreshing, and they're needed. So it's a good time.
Heck yeah. Now, first of all, before we get going, we want to congratulate you for the Hall of Fame and
Yeah,
getting inducted into the Hall of Fame there. That is a big time achievement and it
yeah.
is well earned on your behalf.
Well earned and well deserved, my man.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. It still doesn't even when you say it, even though it's in the past now, it still doesn't seem real. It's like a dream come true. So it's just man, it feels amazing. It's such an honor, and I don't know. It's like the high point of my life, probably. It really is. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, just all the time that you have spent in a boat, just trolling around, looking for fish, catching fish, and stuff like that has really paid off for you. And I mean, and it is well deserved on your behalf, brother. So
I
Where,
congratulations.
appreciate that. Thank
where,
you.
where were you, and how did you find out about your induction, or do you remember whereabouts were you when you found out?
Yes. So I was at the Bassmaster Classic this year, the one that was in Knoxville that Gussie won, and I was doing some commentating during the event. So every day that I was commentating, I was partnered with a different commentator. So I was with Mark Menendez one day, I was with Larry Nixon one day, and the third day of the tournament, I was paired with Bill Dance to do some commentating. So I found out live during the broadcast, and Bill told me. So
Man,
it
that's
it
awesome.
made it made it that much more special
Wow.
for me because he's one of my childhood heroes, and he's someone I've looked up to my entire life, and it was just a magical moment when I found out.
Moment you'll never forget. Moment you'll
Oh
never
yeah, and
forget.
I mean, especially coming from him and
Yeah.
him letting you know about it, and I can imagine if he would have told me that, I would have been like, "You're just joking."
I think I said that. I think I did say that, and I feel bad about saying that. But when it hits you like that, it's shocking.
Yeah,
And it's just like I said. I still pinch myself every once in a while, and because it doesn't feel real. But
yeah.
very very honored to be there.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
So the last couple of years, like we've noticed, like there has been a different mindset. So, what has been the difference that has changed that mindset in the past couple of years to get you like that second win to where you
Yeah,
seem to be more eager here the last 2 or 3 years
yeah.
to be out there?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I think, part of it was, you got to remember back in, I want to say it was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a split in professional
Yeah,
fishing where, a lot of the guys went over to MLF, some of the guys stayed at Bass, and it was something that needed to happen. And
Right.
during that split, I went over to MLF and I made a decision to go over there. And couple years into that, COVID hit, of course, and shut the world down for a little while. And when that happened, it really felt like a time for me to take a break. It felt like a time to take a pause, and I took about a year and a half off of competing totally, and it was a really good time for me personally because it helped me refresh myself and it helped me to remember, why I loved to compete and why I loved fishing and why I loved the sport. So,
Right.
sometimes taking time away from something that you love and are passionate about, it's a good thing. And it was for me. And that's really when I caught my second wind. And I really just, I felt like I wasn't ready to leave, and I felt like I had a lot more to offer the sport.
Right.
And not just competing, but in a bigger sense through other things. I just wasn't ready to quote unquote retire yet.
Right.
So I think once you realize that, it kind of, for me, everything kicked back in, all the energy, and I felt young again, and all those things happen. And now I'm 51, but I don't see myself quitting anytime soon. I feel like I really want to do a lot more, and I'm energized again.
Well, we were at the classic part of the media and stuff like that, and so we got to speak to you just briefly. And I told Norman, I was like that he has like you could tell that energy that you had, and you could see that hunger. You're like, I'm getting back. I got to
Yeah,
get back here, and so because we're waiting, we're wanting to see you hold up that Ray Scott Trophy here sometime pretty soon. So that's going to be iconic, is what
yeah.
Norman and I were talking about. And but speaking of seeing you, like a couple of times, we've seen you the past couple of years at ICAST.
yes,
And Norman knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a costume that somebody was wearing here about 2 years ago. And so
We both
we,
had to do a double take to make sure we were seeing what we're actually seeing. A lot.
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, you remember what you know what we're talking about?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It actually arose about, I would say about 10 years ago, this whole thing started where at some of these bigger shows, whether it's ICAST or whether it's, the Bassmaster Classic or, big fishing events, um, you have these obligations, and Classic's a great example. ICAST's a great example where you're going from booth to booth and you have time schedules, and it got really hard to get around to these different places. And one of the things that I've been real adamant about in my career is, man, if somebody wants to talk to you, you got to stop and talk to them.
yeah,
And I've been late for meetings and photo shoots, and people, I've been scolded and yelled at because I'm late. But it's hard for me to walk past someone when they want an
yeah,
autograph or they want to talk. So
yeah,
about 10 years ago, that my wife and the team just said, hey, just start putting on a mask or put on a costume. And and so it started then, and now it's it's sort of become fun and funny, and
Yeah,
they provide me with different costumes every year. Sometimes it's a mustache, it's long hair, it's a wig, it's something that tries to allow me to get to my next obligation, and
yeah.
it's been fun,
Yeah, that's what we had thought because you were walking towards us, and I didn't pay nothing, no attention, and then I looked at you and I seen your face, and as you were coming, I mean, you was probably about 10 feet from us, and as you were passing, I looked at Norman and my dad was there with us, and I said, "There goes Iaconelli," and so Norman tried to turn around real quick, and he's like, "Where?" And I was like, "He's wearing the wig."
I
So,
love it.
I told Colin, I said
yeah,
that's the best incognito outfit you could wear to get
yeah.
from point A to point B. I'm like, that's funny. That was
So,
funny.
but so yeah, with that, that's one thing. Like was we had seen to kind of go back to our question. We had seen the difference in like your eagerness to be able to get back out there. So that's why we was
Yeah.
wanting to know because it was
Yep.
like you totally had a second wind and stuff to be
Yeah.
able to get back on it. And then when we seen you at the classic, you just seemed like you was just determined, like I'm getting back. It's not
Yeah.
if, it's I am. And so
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't easy either, because I think like other sports, when you get away from something for a little bit, you get left behind a little bit. So, with especially on the competitive side, there's an immense amount of young talent out there right now, and I'm getting older, so it's like other sports where you have to train and you have to be in it 100%, and that's hard, that's difficult. So I'm there, and I want to win again. I want to hold a trophy up again, and I want to I want to influence people to start fishing and all that stuff. It's still very much in my blood.
yeah. And another thing is like I've seen in your videos, and it might just be me because we edit a lot of videos and stuff like that for our YouTube and with the production company and stuff that we have. Um, that when you have Vegas out on the boat with you, it just seems like it just cranks it up a little bit more. And then I get stoked when I see him and what was it? It wasn't too long ago. I seen a video where he caught one and he just gets on his knees like when you won the classic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's
so
a
that,
yeah, that's a great feeling. I mean, if
yeah,
you're listening or watching, and you're a dad or an uncle or a cousin, and you know the feeling of having a young person in your boat that's doing something that you're passionate about, right? That's a very, very special thing, and I'm lucky that I work with kids fishing all the time, but that relationship I have with my son when we're fishing is something that's very special.
yeah,
And I think that's what it's all about. For me, it was my uncle. My dad passed away when I was very, very young, so my uncle was my father figure.
right,
So I really can look back and remember those days fishing with him, and it was the reason I'm doing what I'm doing now. It was the reason I fell in love with the sport. So to be able to do that for my son and other kids is a very, very special thing. I don't take it for granted. It's pretty amazing.
it is, it is.
That's awesome.
So with leading into that, let's talk a little bit about the Ike Foundation and kind of talk about what it is and is there anything that our viewers can do to help out with that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, the Ike Foundation, we started about 10 years ago, and we started it because we were in a position to be able to do something good, right? And when we sat down and we said, what would this be? It was a real easy. It took probably like 2 minutes. That's how easy it was. And it was really a reflection of me when I was young, growing up in an area that has non-traditional angling in it, right? Growing up in Philadelphia, and if my family wasn't there, you know, 90% of the kids that I grew up with didn't fish because it wasn't a thing. So, we really came up with this idea to, hey, let's start this nonprofit to help get new kids fishing. And let's target kids that live in places where they normally don't fish. And
Right.
man, it's been the single, most satisfying thing that I've done in my career. It's better than the trophies. It's better than the Hall of Fame. It's hard to describe it, but when you see it, and when 2, 3, 4 years later you have an email or a letter come back and say, "Hey, thank you for introducing me to fishing," or "Hey, I've got kids now of my own, and thank you for introducing me to it. I'm teaching them," or you just feel like you're doing something really good. So
Yeah.
it's been amazing. But I mean, I invite anybody to go over to the ikefoundation.org. There's lots of ways to get involved. One of the easiest is just go over there, and we have a pledge form. All you have to do is print it out, sign it, send it back. And only thing it means is you're saying, when you sign that pledge form, you're saying, I'll take a new kid that's never fished fishing.
Yeah.
And that's something we could all do. I don't care if you live in New Jersey or West Virginia or Hawaii or wherever you live. It's something we can all do. It's something we all need to do to help grow the sport.
Yeah. And that's and to with me, like with my YouTube channel, like, and with the YouTube, everybody wants to show catching this big fish. And it's all about catching big fish. And how I grew up in Nashville and on Old Hickory Lake,
Oh yeah.
and grew up fishing with my granddaddy and my dad. And to me, I want to show on my YouTube channel, like if we were out on the boat, I want to show the camaraderie that we
Mm,
have while you're out on the boat, because that friendship is more important than going out there and catching a big fish. If you catch a big fish, it is well. I mean, we all get excited. We might not get uh, Mike Iaconelli excited, but we do get excited about it. But with that said, there's nothing more greater than having a kid come out, or even somebody that has never fished before, and that excitement that they get catching that first fish. If it's a bass, a bluegill, or whatever it is,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Just that excitement. I caught a
Yeah.
fish, and so that the foundation and stuff that really sets home with Norman and I, because that's what we're all about, is trying to be able to get kids, or not kid, mostly kids, but trying to just get people to grow the fishing industry.
Yeah.
And so we definitely want to, and we're going to put, and you said it's ikefoundation.org, right?
Yep, it's the ikefoundation.org.
Okay.
THEIKE. Yep, the ikefoundation.org. Yep.
Okay, so what we'll do is, guys, I will put the link down in the description here after we get done. Um, so um, let's talk about the classic. The you winning the classic. I mean, that Norman and I were talking. We were saying that was one of the most iconic classics in Bassmaster history. That, I mean, because it went down to the very last for you. And can you talk to us a little bit about what was going through your mind and the feelings that you were feeling?
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, it was a long time ago, and when you're talking about it and describing it, all the memories come back instantly.
Right.
That's the really cool thing about fishing. If you're a fisherman, you know that you forget a lot of things. You forget anniversaries and birthdays, and you forget to pay bills. At least I do. But you don't forget those fishing memories. They stick with you, and I remember everything. It's crazy. But that was one of those tournaments where going into it, it was a turning point of my career and of my life. Honestly, going into that tournament, I was in a position where I didn't know if I was going to continue fishing. I didn't know if my career would continue. And, honestly, I thought that potentially that could be my last event. So, to go in and have that happen, it changed my life, really did. But, um, I remember the feeling of knowing you're close and, and being right there. And that last day was no exception. Really long boat runs to get to the spot. I get there, I catch a couple good ones, a couple okay ones. I got one little one in there, and I know, even though this is pre live, this is pre web, this is pre all that, um, I know in my heart that if I can't get rid of this 12 incher, I'm not winning this classic. I'm losing it. And, I remember there was a camera guy in my boat from ESPN, and he knew there was about 5 minutes of fishing left. And he said, Mike, before we make that 2 hour run back, give me your thoughts on the day. And I remember, looking back and telling him, I'm like, man, listen, I gave it my all. Like I worked hard and I gave it 100%. I got no regrets, and I got a couple minutes left, and I just got to keep pushing, and and then we got to go back, and I remember telling him that, and it was like almost immediately after I finished that sentence, I had a fish. I was using a paddle tail worm, swim worm or speed worm, guys call them. And I remember one boiling on it, but missing it. And it was like almost like robotic, where I reeled it in and I never took my eyes off where that boil was at. And I had a rod rigged with a soft stick bait on a spinning rod. And it was like very robotic because I grabbed that rod without even looking down at it, picked it up, clicked the bail. My eyes are still focused on that boil, and the stick bait landed right where that boil was at. And I clicked the bail over, and that fish had it. And I remember setting the hook, and when I set the hook, I knew that that was the winning fish. Like I just knew. Like it's hard to
Yeah.
describe because there was no text or none of that existed. And the minute that I put my hand on that fish, it was honestly a lifetime of emotions coming out. Not just the dream since I was a kid of the classic, not just the fact of the pressure and all that, not just the fact that I thought this might be my last tournament, but it all just erupted. And all that was captured on film, of course, and it became a very historical, iconic moment in fishing. But it was just one of those moments that is amazing, and it's still hard to believe that that happened. And that was the winning fish, and I won by just a little over a pound. Had I not got rid of that 12 incher, that fish was about 3 pounds, so that was the winning fish. I only
Yeah.
won by a pound. So life changing event for me, and just unbelievable.
Yeah,
And
you could see when you got that fish in your hand, just it's almost like everything, the weight just got off your shoulders, and it's just you just let it go,
Yeah,
and it was and I imagine people they might not know that that was from the classic, the video of you at the front of the boat, like, and just you just hollering and screaming, and but I mean, but everybody, if they watch any kind of fishing, they have definitely seen that fish catch.
and
So yeah,
as a fan of the sport, there's two classic moments or memories that I will never forget as a fan. And I've watched pretty much every year. I watched the classic, and then we had the opportunity to go last year as a media. But one of them, of course, is going to be your 2003 classic winning moment. And the other one actually is a little bit more recent, wasn't a classic win, but it's another memory that is etched in my mind that I will never forget is your 10 pounder. On, I believe
yes.
it was on day 2 or 3.
Day three of Lake Conroe
Yeah, Lake Conroe.
yes, in Texas, down toward Houston. It was, yes, another one of those moments. Like again, a long time ago, but I can remember the bite. I remember the hook set. I remember everything about it. And I
That was on a
growing up,
Carolina rig too, wasn't it?
On a Carolina rig lizard, a
Yep.
green pumpkin power lizard, like the oldest technique that you could think of, you know.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but those big fish are very special to me because I grew up and I still live in an area of the country where you don't see fish in that caliber. Like honestly, a big one we consider a 4 or 5 pounder is a really big fish for us. And that, a lot of times when growing up, that was the biggest fish I'd catch all year would be a 5 pounder. So, to catch a 10 pounder in the Bassmaster Classic, like, can you imagine the feeling of that, And it happened to me and it was just, it was amazing, it was unbelievable.
Oh,
Now, did you at least get big fish then?
I did get big fish for that day. I don't know if I had big fish for the event. I might have had big fish for the event too. I fell a little short for the win in that one. Of course, that was Jordan Lee's,
yeah.
I think, first or second classic win. And I did have a top 10 in that event. I think I ended up fifth or sixth. So great event and great memories for sure. Biggest fish I ever caught in the classic, and probably in my top 10 of biggest fish I ever caught in my life.
Yeah. We got a question um, from James. Says, Mike, if you were over scheduling of the tournaments, how would you schedule tournaments? Would you have just keep it at 9, or would you go have more tournaments more spread out through the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll answer it two ways real quick. The first one is, I'll give you the personal response, which is I like a tournament schedule that's more spread out throughout the seasons. So I like to see events starting in February, and I would like to see them running all the way through September or October. And it really gives the anglers and the fans a look at fish in different phases of their life, right? You get pre
Yeah.
spawn, and post spawn, and summer and fall. And I like that.
Yeah.
So,
Instead of having
the year.
5 tournaments of just spawning fish.
Yes, I'm not a fan of stacking tournaments in the spring to catch spawning fish all the time. I'm not a fan of that. So I would spread it out. I would like more events, to be honest with you. The year that I won Angler of the Year, which was 2006, there were 11 points tournaments that year, and I felt like that was a great schedule. I'd love to see it go back to that number. And then the other thing is, I'd really like to see a schedule where it's based on new fisheries and really spreading out the types of fisheries.
Yeah.
So that the first half of that question is what I would like to see. The second half of it is, unfortunately, that's not the way that these organizations operate, and I'm all of them. I'm not pinpointing bass. It's all the professional organizations, and unfortunate reality is that they're selecting locations based on money, right? They're running businesses. So, unfortunately, they're going to the communities, the places that pay them the most money.
Yeah.
And so the anglers' wants and needs are often 10 or 11 on a list of 10 things, right? We're
Right.
often not even on the list. That's kind of what I was saying there.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate because I wish the sport got to a time where they could really just go to new places, and
Yeah.
let other people see the sport and go to more rivers, go to more, go out
Yeah.
west again. I'd like to see that, but that's not the reality of the sport at its current time.
Yeah, I would like to see that y'all go out to the Delta, out to California and hit the Delta. I mean, because we're in Chattanooga, so we're in the best of both, all the worlds. I mean, because we got Chickamauga and Gunnersville within
Yeah,
a stone throw from us. And so, but then we got the hidden gem that that's starting to get known is Nickajack right in between. But when you got Gunnersville and Chickamauga, people like, all right, I want big bass, and that's what they get. So, but
yeah,
we don't really get to see too much of like anything out west of Texas. So
Right.
I think it'd be cool to, I mean, to be able to hit some of them lakes, and which I know that, I mean, that's going to cost like the anglers more money, gas money, and stuff going out there. Um, for Gussie, it might be the same because I mean he's got to drive forever and a day just to get where he's going, anyways. But I think that'd be pretty cool to see, especially like y'all breaking down uh, the delta and stuff, and that's one thing. That's where I would like to see that y'all
Yeah.
hit.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um, and let's talk. You talked a little bit about 2006 with the Angler of the Year.
Yeah.
Now, um, uh, did was that a year that it just seems like you could not do anything wrong, or did it just kind of just happen to fall into your lap?
I think a little bit of both of those. 2006 was a year that started really on a bad note for me. I had a really bad Bassmaster Classic. I had an incident happen there. Uh, that I look back on. I wish I would have handled it differently, but I really started the year off on a bad foot. But that bad event really sort of changed my mindset, and it helped me refocus a little bit. At that point, you got to remember now, 2000, the beginning of 2006. Now I'm 2 years of full running, 3 years from winning the classic, 2 years of running, and when I mean running, at that point I was fishing two full tours. I was also fishing a lot of the FLW stuff. Still, I was booking about a dozen to 24 shows, 12 to 24 shows a year. I was burning myself out. And,
Yeah,
having that bad event early 2006 sort of made me step back and say, I really do this because I love the fishing. I love the puzzle. I love the process of finding fish and catching fish. And it refocused me a little bit. So I think that helped, but for sure, in my career, I've had like this roller coaster of good and bad years.
right.
And things, you hear the term guys get in the zone, guys get on a roll, whatever you want to call it. And things were rolling for me that year. And I was really able to just sort of keep that momentum going, and the right things happen at the right time and all that. I think all that has to happen for you to win Angler of the Year. It has to happen like that because, if it doesn't, it's. I've been yelled at for saying this before, but AOY is the most important win in all of fishing. It's probably more important than the Classic because it's a real test of endurance. It's a real marathon,
It's just
and
not a 3 day.
right,
Right.
right. It's and if things don't just fall into place, if things aren't sort of happening by themselves like that, it's hard to win that one. I mean, that's just, I don't know what other way to put it. I remember going into the last tournament of the year on Table Rock, and again, this was 11 tournaments, and this was a late September tournament, so it was a fall tournament. Um, I had Kevin Van Dam and Hackney and Steve Kennedy and all these like amazing anglers chasing me down, just points behind me. And Kevin didn't catch him the second day, and Steve Kennedy lost a big one, and I caught a good one, and like you look back on those things, and if they don't happen just exactly, then you don't win. And that's sort of how it happened for me. And but it's another one of those ones that's was a childhood dream. And when you win, of course you want to win again. But when you win a title like that, it sort of fulfills a lifelong goal. And it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Now, let's see. We got Lori and Beth with two chicks in the boat. Um,
Yes.
they said Mike is an amazing teacher and is very kind to share his gift with others. The Ike Foundation is phenomenal for kids and super cool to participate or participate in as an adult. Good luck with you and your season.
That's awesome. They're I know those two from a long time ago, and they're amazing anglers in their own right. And that's awesome to hear that. Thank you for saying that. And I can tell you the teaching part of it. Honestly, I love it. And those seminars and the Bass University classes,
Yeah.
and they're one of the funnest things I get to do in the sport. I like the fishing. Of course, I
Yeah.
like the fishing, and I like the lure design, and I like all these cool parts of it. But being able to help people and teach people, that's such a cool thing,
Yeah.
and I don't take that for granted. And I really do like to teach, so that's
Well,
that's awesome to hear from them.
and I've got to say thank you to you because about 7, 8 years ago, I watched a video of you talking about a blade bait.
Yeah.
And you said in that video, like, it's just not a winter bait. You fish
Right.
this thing all year round. So
Right.
after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to start fishing it during the summer. Well, uh, with doing that, I have caught my biggest three fish bag of 23 pounds. And I
Wow.
lost one at the boat. Not going to say anything, but my dad lost it. He hit it with the net or hit the bait with the net, but it was over 10 pounds. And,
Wow.
but I want to say thank you to you because, I mean, I watch all your videos. Even like the little modifications and stuff like that you do is just phenomenal, and it's stuff that most anglers do not want to share because they're like, this is what I've won. I've caught fish and I've won tournaments with. Why am I going to give somebody else ammo to go against me? And you're out there just giving it. And I mean, and I have used your stuff, the what you have on your videos, and it has tremendously helped me out. But the blade bait has been the best thing, the best video that I have seen that I have put to work. And Norman can tell you, I throw that blade bait all year round just because of that video.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
It's a good bait. It is a good bait all year
it is.
round. So that's
And so,
awesome.
uh, let's see. I had another question. We got it on 4 different platforms, so I'm trying to scroll through and trying to figure out which one.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Um,
the questions come up so fast, it's like you have to catch them or they disappear off the bottom of your screen if you don't catch them
so,
fast.
which when y'all do the Ike Live. Well, speaking of Ike Live, let's talk a little bit about that. I
Yeah.
want to say that I drive a truck 3 days a week for McKee. That's my full time job, and so I work 3 days. I fish four, so I kind of got the best of both worlds. But so when I'm driving a truck, I have podcasts going. I love listening because y'all have so much fun. And the thing is, uh, y'all, when y'all have somebody on, y'all will ask those difficult questions that some people do not want. They kind of shun away from, and that's
Yeah.
what I really like. And I think Becky said it best during the Halloween special. Says that we're from New Jersey. We just ask whatever we want to ask.
Yeah, that is kind of true. We're a little brash up in this part of the country, but I can tell you, it's been. You guys know you're doing one successfully, and it's been one of the most fun projects I've been involved in my career.
Yeah,
And we the premise is real simple. We talk fishing, we drink beer, and we definitely try to ask some of the questions that might not be asked on other podcasts. We try
yeah,
to push the boundaries a little bit, but we try to entertain people. We try to make people laugh. I've been really lucky because it it's been a way for me to hang with my friends who have been my childhood friends since the fifth grade.
right,
And everybody in life, the older you get, the busier you get, and life gets in the way of your friendships and
right.
relationships a lot of times. So it's been an amazing thing because it's let me hang with my friends more, and just for that alone, it's you know,
Well, that's refreshing being able to do that, and then you're able just to make some good good videos and good audio and stuff for the podcast and stuff off of it. It's just refreshing to be able one. I mean, y'all go down some rabbit holes that I hadn't even thought about when y'all get talking, but it's and y'all have fun with it, and I can
yeah.
tell that that everybody on that show enjoys being on that show, and so that's to me, I enjoy it because when I I go to the next one, and I'll drive for 7 hours at a time, going from Chattanooga to Indianapolis and back, and then going to South Carolina and stuff. Y'all make the time go by pretty good for me. So
I, I I appreciate you saying that. They're a lot of fun, and I'm glad you're having fun. I'm glad people enjoy it. Again, we're trying to entertain people, and we
yeah,
live in a world today that's turn on the news or don't because it's
right,
pretty crappy, and it's nice to have 30 minutes or an hour of fun. It's nice to
yeah,
listen to something that's fun for a change. So if we're doing that and people like it, that's awesome.
yeah. How can people find if they don't know where to find you? Where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, real easy. At Mike Iaconelli or at Mike Iaconelli Fishing on every platform. Man, we're on so many platforms I don't even know them all. But we've got a great team, and of course, MikeIaconelli.com. You can go to at any time. But Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those YouTube at Mike Iaconelli Fishing.
Yeah,
Find me there.
yeah. Now, with us talking about their Ike Live, your Halloween special, you had Boyd Duckett on,
Yes.
and which I don't want to get into like the MLF deal. Because that can go for hours in itself. But um, y'all were talking about, and I think Becky's the one that brought it up. Said, why don't y'all do like because with them like 30 people are losing their spot this coming
Yeah.
up, and they're like, why don't you do like a senior tour? What
Yeah.
is your opinion on like doing that? Because golf does it, like what y'all said, golf does it, and uh, that should be fairly easy to promote.
Yeah, yeah. I like the concept of specialty events. I like the concept of specialty tours. Just like other sports, whether it's golf or baseball or basketball, whatever the other sport is.
Yeah,
The more people can watch and tune in, the more people can see different premise of the sport.
yeah,
I think it's going to help. It's going to help grow the audience. So yes, I would love to see a senior tour.
yeah,
Yes, I would love to see you know uh, MLF versus Bass Tour. Yes, I would love to see we talked before the podcast started. I would love to see a tour where it was no forward facing sonar,
yeah,
old school flasher, or no graphs. I would
yeah,
love to see that. I think it would be compelling. I think people would be interested in it. And at the end of the day, we need more people to watch fishing. That's what we want. So specialty events or tours like that make a lot of sense. You
yeah,
know, it unfortunately again revolves back to money, and if the money isn't there to create those tours, then that's a lot of times the problem.
yeah. Now, another question from excuse me, a guy named John said, "Is there a lake that has your number every time you've been on it that just seems like you just can't get over the hump on
Yeah, John, that's a great question, and I'll take it a step further. It's a state that
it?"
has my number, and that state is Florida with a capital F for Florida. Uh, I say that, and I actually had a good Florida event last year on Okeechobee, and a week later at Seminole, which Seminole's not technically a Florida fishery, but over the years, the Florida strain bass has been a thorn in my side. Has been a real arch nemesis of mine, and it's probably more because of how they react during cold front situations. And it's easy for me to talk about. I look at you guys in the eye and say that when a cold front comes in Florida, you got to slow down. But the reality of it for me is I'm not a slow fisherman, and I can't sit still. I'm sitting here with you guys, and I'm still like I want to do something. I'm jittery, I'm fiddly, and I fish like that. So
Yeah.
slowing down, understanding the behavior of Florida strain fish, especially when a cold front comes through, has always been one of my downfalls. And I wish I could get better at it. I'm continuing to try to get better at it, but yes, John, Florida is my arch nemesis. Yes.
Not just a lake, but Florida.
Right, right. The whole state. Yes.
um, with with growing up in New Jersey, it's not known for bass fishing. So, how did you get into bass fishing, and how did you make that decision, or when did you make that decision that you wanted to make bass fishing as a profession?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, definitely not a hotbed of bass fishing where I grew up, but my uncle and my grandfather were fishermen, and really strange because in that area in the Northeast in Philadelphia, fishing's not a big thing, but they fished. So I was born into a household where you know people fished, and so from when I was a very early age, I was brought up in a house that went fishing. And most of the time that was just on like summer vacations or, when they did a trout stocking or, something like that. But um, I grew up fishing. So I fell in love with fishing very early. And no, like, but they didn't bass fish. They
Right.
were the old school fishing family, right? Where they use live bait and,
Everything
whatever
went to
got
the
caught.
grease.
Oh yeah, whatever got caught got kept. We didn't even have live wells back then. We had stringers, because they were just on John boats or rental boats or whatever. So, but I remember catching my first bass, probably as a young teen, like 11, 12, 13, right in that age, and it really sparked something in me because I already loved fishing. And then here was this fish I caught on an artificial, and it was an amazing fight. And it was this whole process that I hadn't really experienced. And that fish sort of set me in motion to want to do that more.
Right.
And, so that was an important part. The other, you look back on your life and you say, man, that how lucky was I that that happened. But where I grew up, a couple of my friends who were on Ike Live in the fifth or sixth grade also liked to fish. Like we were guys, I'm not kidding. We were legitimately the oddballs. Like it was so bad that like people laughed at us for fishing. That sounds ridiculous, right? Because fishing's cool and fishing's fun, but in that part of the world it wasn't, and but I had these friends that liked to fish, and that was a great support group for me at that age, and it allowed me to have peers, that engaged in something that I like too, and so that was important. And I did it all the way through high school, and when I graduated high school I joined a fishing club, and that was a big moment for me. And honestly, right around then, in that 1990, early 90s, is when I said, man, this is something I want to try to do professionally. That was the first time at where I really said to myself, I would love to attempt to do this.
Yeah.
And, man, it's been a hell of a journey since then,
Now, as a
That
kid
was a
growing
good.
up in New Jersey, back when you were a lot younger, growing up, were you aware of BASS or the Bassmaster at that time Top 150? Did you watch it on TV, or how young were you when you actually started thinking, "Man, I'd love to live that dream"?
Yes, right around that same time when I caught that first bass. I would say, maybe a few years later, probably 13, 14 years old. One of my really good friends, Tom, who fished, his dad was a Bassmaster member. And I remember being at Tom's house, and his dad knew I was into fishing and Tom was into fishing, and he said, "Here, you want all these old magazines?" And he gave me, like, the last 6 or 7 issues that he had laying around, probably in the bathroom or something. And that was the first time I remember going through these pages magazines, and I'm like, my eyes got big, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a sport based around this, like what? And then of course I found it on TNN, like a lot of us, and watched, like every week, and that, yes, that all created that drive for me. And to the point where, when I joined that club, the next few years after I joined the club, I think I was a sophomore in college. I started fishing the pro-ams as an amateur, and that really set the wheels in motion, because I remember getting drawn for one of these tournaments, and I'm fishing with these guys and I'm watching them, and it really sparked the fire for me, from being a dream to saying, all right, what do I need to do to put myself in a position to make this a reality? So, it's been, it wasn't one of those easy roads, for sure, because, nothing's ever handed to you. And I had to work for it. But that dream was created by a lot of what I saw and experienced.
Yeah. Now, when you said that with growing up and y'all get John boats and stuff like that, so
Yes.
is that kind of like how you kind of like getting into a kayak is kind of similar? You kind of going back and getting into a John boat,
Very similar. Very similar. Yeah, I mean, the first half of my life fishing was on the bank or in a canoe or in a john boat, and so yeah. So when this kayak movement came, about 15 years ago, you started to see this kayak movement developing, kayak
right?
fishing movement, and when I got into it, it was such a natural progression for me. It really did. You hit it right on the head. It felt exactly like being in a John boat or a
Right.
canoe. It reminded me of a lot of my childhood fishing. And I think that's part of the reason that I like it so much. Even now, I think I like it because it reminds me of being young, and it reminds me of why I got into the sport. And I can tell you, nothing against full size bass boats and all that, but fighting a big bass or a redfish or a striper or whatever you're catching, fighting that fish in a kayak, being at the ground level with that fish. When that fish jumps, he's jumping at eye level with you. Having that experience, man, that's hard to do that in a big boat. I can tell you, it's pretty special.
Yeah, that would be something that I mean, that'd be interesting. I had kayaks and stuff, fishing kayaks and stuff, but I got, I ended up buying a new boat, so I sold my kayaks. But now, uh, I'm like, man, I should at least kept one of them. But let's see. John Pate says, "Congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction. Never give up and go, Mikey. God
Thank
bless you and your family."
That's awesome. Thank you, John.
And then Jason says, "I got a question for Mike. Who's uglier, him or Marcel Vinch? Was it
Veenstra. Yeah, Marcel Veenstra. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he said,
I
since y'all were on the ugly crew,
Yeah, we're on the ugly. Well, we called it the ugly clan, ugly crew. I'm definitely uglier than Marcel, for sure. I'm way less attractive than he is. But uh, that was one of those. We were just talking about experiences and wanting to do it. But Marcel was one of the guys in the Northeast that was a friend and also a mentor for me. and really leaned on him a lot when I was in that stage where you're developing, into a professional, So we toured, if you guys remember the old Redmans and, a lot of the old Bass Federations and the old Invitational days. And we did a lot of that touring together early on. We were all green. We were all from the Northeast fishing in a Southern dominated sport. And it was an amazing, 3, 4, 5 years traveling with those guys. And
Right.
honestly, a lot of who I am today as an angler, how I fish, how I prepare, how I travel, a lot of that comes from the years that I spent with the Ugly Clan. So, yeah, shout out to Marcel Veenstra, good guy.
um, and then Michael Lindell, he's a hammer down in the Everglades.
Mm.
So uh, he had a couple comments. He said Kernersville was good to you. So
Yes, yes, Kenansville, yeah,
uh, he
AKA
said,
Jurassic Park.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see. And then he says, uh, which you kind of hit on it earlier, but he just got on not too long ago. What's your future in bass fishing tournaments, and how much does Ike have left in the tank?
yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great question, and I think there's two answers for that. The one is I want to win again. I want to win again. I can really feel it in my heart. So I don't think I can leave until I win again, right? So that's hard to put a number on that because
Right.
wins are very, very difficult. I mean, I can tell you, I've been doing it a long time. I have very few wins for as long as I've been fishing. So, but I want to win again,
Right.
and I think that for me is a driving factor. And just again, being involved in the sport, I missed it. I'm glad I'm back in it. It feels good to be here.
Yeah.
But I think for everyone in their life and in their professional career, whatever you do, I think there comes a time when you'll know.
Yeah.
I'm going to look in the mirror one morning or night and say, I'm done. I've had enough, and I'll know, But here's the thing: I'm not. I can't ever see leaving fishing though, right? Like I
Yeah.
see a day when I'll step away from the competitive side of it, but boy, things like the Ike Foundation and Ike Live and
Oh,
Bash
yeah.
University, guys, I'm going to be doing them till I'm in a wheelchair. You guys are going to be pushing me around in a wheelchair. I'll be in a cane. I mean, I'm going to do that till I can't do it anymore.
But we'll push
Because I
you
because
around anytime.
yeah, because I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I don't see actually ever retiring.
Yeah, and that's one of the things like people will say like let's say since Kevin Van Dam just retired, like he's getting away from the competitive, like what you're saying, but we're still going to see him at the classic. We're still
Oh
going to
yeah.
see him
Oh
at
yeah.
podcasts and stuff like that. He's still going to be around.
100%. 100%. Yeah. In fact, I had a conversation with Kevin at the Hall of Fame induction, and honestly, it sounds like he's going to be busier in
Probably is.
2024 than he was when he was tournament fishing.
Yeah.
So that word retirement's very loose when you're involved in the fishing industry and you want to stay in the fishing industry.
Yeah. We're going to just have two more questions for you, if that's all right.
Sure.
Because we're right here at an hour. So, well, I guess one of them's going to be kind of our opinion, and the other one's going to be a question.
Okay.
Um, when you got into professional fishing, you brought a new group in with you, like as in like viewers and stuff like that. You brought it's almost like Tiger Norman and I compare it to like Tiger Woods going to the PGA. You
Brought a
brought
whole
a
group of
new
fans into the sport that not necessarily would have even knew what bass fishing was before started fishing as a professional.
right, and so and like how we think that you were able to do that is because Mike Iaconelli has always been Mike Iaconelli on the boat, off the boat, and stuff. We got when the camera was on you, they got Mike Iaconelli who he was,
Yeah.
and um, and that has never changed through your whole career.
Yeah.
And you've got fans that love you for that, and you've got some people that don't care too much for that.
Yep.
But in our opinion, we think with you being yourself, that has opened the doors for other anglers to be more like to be themselves, as in like Tyler Rivette, like ripping the shirt off, and then everybody knows Matt Robson fishing in his underwear and stuff like that. What do you think that? I mean, I don't know how to really say this, but do you think that with you kind of being yourself kind of allowed them to be able to uh, that it's more acceptable since you had been yourself your whole career?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that I've played a part of opening up the sport, and I was really fortunate, guys, because my my come into the sport, right? My time of the sport was when ESPN bought it. There was so much visibility in bass fishing in that time period, call it 2000 to 2008. I was very fortunate that the high point of my career was aligned with that time. And, and it wasn't just me. It was a time when, you had guys from the West Coast and Skeet Reese, Ish Monroe, you had Gerald Swindle, you had all these guys coming in that were very different from the perceived, you know, person that would fish professionally.
Right,
And, so during that time, getting all that visibility, being different, was I was very blessed to have that timing. And
right,
man, if I did play a part, that's awesome
yeah,
because I do look at it now, and I look at the sport, and I see a lot of people that aren't afraid to be themselves,
yeah,
and it's not always being loud, or it's not always taking your clothes off to your underwear. But there are other things like I
right,
like that. I love the diversity of the sport, and the more different characters and personalities there are in a sport, the more different personalities and different people that will want to watch the sport and
yeah.
participate in the sport. So thank you for saying that. And if I helped, I'm very, very flattered, and it
Well,
was just awesome.
we know we talked to Tyler Rivette at the Classic during the media day, and we asked him like who was the angler that he looked up to as growing up as a child, and he said you, and he said that's the reason why he got the never give up tattoo on his arm,
Awesome. That's
and
awesome.
um, and that was one that we I mean we you don't need anybody else kind of coating your ego, but I mean, but it's nice to know that you played a big part, and especially these guys that have made it to that level, to where you're the guy that they looked up to, and so it
That's
is.
a Yeah,
And
that's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, and it's a very humbling thing to know that I've influenced people, and now all these years later, I'm competing against those guys and competing against Tyler and guys that are in that boat, and it's awesome. I mean, that's man, I don't know, that's just something that's very, very special, and to have played a part in some of that. Is amazing.
yeah. So Norman, let's ask. I'll let you ask the last question, and then we'll close it down. And if you can hang on just for a second after we get done, Mike, and I would appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, man. If you were to have one person on your boat, and this person might could be passed on or still with us today, but one person to be able to fish with for the day, who would that person be, and why would you want to be able to fish with that person for the day, Mike?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, and I'm going to have to buck the question a little bit and give you two instead of one. The first one would be I would love to fish again with my grandfather. My grandfather's passed now for a while. Gone on 20 years, and he was just such a big influence in my life. And I think everyone has someone in their life that is
Yeah.
like that, fills that role. And my grandfather and my uncle were those guys for me, right? They were my guys. And man, I remember the days of trout fishing with my pop, and to be able to do that again would be magical. And just to be in a boat again with him,
Yeah.
trout fishing. We did a lot of trout fishing.
Yeah. That'd
Yeah,
be
That's awesome.
that'd be one. And the other one, I'm going to go to the professional realm. And, one of my heroes, I've got so many heroes in the sport, but one of my big ones, of course, is Rick Clunn. And, it's interesting because now that I've been competing with him and against him all these years, I've developed a friendship with him, but I've also never shared the boat with him.
uh,
And he's really he's shaped the way that I fish probably more than any other angler, from the mental side and how he approached patterning fish and seasonal pattern, and that outlook of thinking about why things are happening. And I still sort of get a little nervous when I'm around him. That sounds strange, but he's my guy in the sport. And man, I don't know what I would do, but that would be a dream for me to
yeah.
share the boat with Rick Clunn one day for
Yeah,
sure.
and that question that we actually asked that question to all of our guests on the podcast, and Rick Clunn has been the answer for you
A
know
lot.
a lot of
I'm
And Greg
sure.
Hackney.
yeah. Greg
Oh, I'm
Hackney,
sure.
Rick Clunn, but Rick Clunn has been the answer for
Yeah.
many anglers.
But
Yeah,
we did have Louis Minetti, that is from New Jersey. I don't know if you know him or not,
I know
but
Lou. Oh yeah.
Collegiate
we
qualifier
asked
last year
him.
classic.
We asked him that question, and he done like what you done. He says, "I got two people," and the first person he says was Mike Iaconelli.
Heck
Second person
yeah.
Second person he said was Aaron Martin. And so
Aaron.
um,
Yes.
we told him you cannot go wrong with either one of those. And so,
Yeah, yeah. The Aaron pick is a no brainer, and I was lucky enough to have a friendship with Aaron and to share the boat with Aaron on Lake Amistad after a tournament at a media event. It was one of the funnest, most memorable days I've ever had on the boat, and got to fish with Aaron. So, yes, that would be at the top of my list as well. That's a good
yeah.
one.
Yeah. So we had over 1,300 viewers watching this in this hour and 8 minutes.
Heck yeah.
So, guys, if you have not, let's blow up Mike's social media. And if you just go on there and say something, you've seen him on Deck Talk podcast, or just say, if you're not following him, start following him, because again, his videos and his tips, modifications on baits is well worth watching. It has helped us out tremendously, even though we say he's a Yankee living up there in New Jersey. we his bait modifications work down here in the South too, in Chattanooga and on Chickamauga, and so go and blow up his all his social media. And Mike, we deeply appreciate you coming on, brother, and thank you for taking time away from your family as y'all are camping. And tell Becky thank you for uh, communicating with us back and forth and getting all this thing set up for us.
Will do, guys. And I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun.
It's
Yeah.
been awesome, Mike. Appreciate it, man.
So,
Thanks,
guys,
guys.
make sure we're going to be another episode next Thursday. We're going to have another interesting. We actually got two guests coming on next week, and from the great state of Nebraska. They're just some good old corn huskers, is what I call them. But they it's Jen and Dustin Muse is coming on, and it's gonna be Dustin's more like us, kind of low key. Uh, Jen is high strung. We had to have her on following after our Mike Iaconelli because kind of trying to match energy. But guys, make sure you stay tuned for next week, and thank you again for watching and live the passion.
The passion, guys.
Bye, guys.